Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Everything is Bad New Fangled Motion Picture Show.
Welcome, one and all, to another episode of the Everything is Bad New Fangled Motion Picture Show. I am Sensei Niall.
Hiya! And I am Sensei Nolan.
And we're glad that you've chosen to learn the ancient art of karate.
Where we will teach you to punch with your feet and kick with your fists.
So we're reviewing a little movie called The Art of Self-Defense. And that whole intro was references to the movie. And it's weird, man.
It is a weird movie.
Wait. We're going to do a spoiler-free review. Almost forgot to mention that bit.
Housekeeping.
Housekeeping stuff. We're going to do spoiler-free review. Then give you a spoiler warning and go more in-depth into it after that. And there's like 2 layers of potential spoilers on this,
So yeah, when I saw the trailer for this movie, I knew right away I wanted to see it. And though the trailer didn't prepare me for this movie, I mean, I knew it would be a dark comedy, but this is dark in places. And it takes some strange turns.
Yeah, it's real. Be prepared. It's a real art house.
But it's good. I liked the movie quite a bit.
It is good. I mean, it's art house kind of in the same way that like Fight Club is art house. You know, it's like dark and sort of making a social commentary. In this case, on like masculinity and It did have a bit of a gender roles,
a Fight Club vibe to it, but a lot lower budget.
Yeah, well, there were parts where, not to get too not to get spoiler with you, but there were some parts that sort of had a Fight Club vibe to them. I mean, the movie as a whole is more of a commentary on like masculinity and macho manliness, instead of, corporate drudgery and whatnot that Fight Club is about.
There's a bit of commentary on masculinity in the modern age in that.
Yeah.
In Fight Club as well.
Right, and there's a little bit of a commentary on corporate drudgery in this as well. But yeah, the main focus really is on Jesse Eisenberg's perfect casting in this. He's this meek, sort of weak guy. He gets pushed around by the other guys at work, and has a traumatic experience where he gets jumped and mugged, and starts seeking out ways that he can learn how to defend himself, because he feels really insecure, and he doesn't feel like comfortable leaving his house at night, and he's tired of living like that.
So he starts taking karate lessons.
Yeah.
And basically everyone involved in this dojo is insane, though.
Yeah.
Especially the sensei.
Yeah, and
who's just known as Sensei.
Right. His cast it's Alessandro Nivola.
Yeah.
And yeah, his character is just Sensei. So, I mean, part of the problem.
The only person who could have played this role more crazy would have been Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, so it's hard to really get into this movie without spoiling it at all. But I will say I do recommend seeing it. It's definitely not something that you should feel like you need to go see in theater.
No, there's not
I mean, the whole movie has 3 sets.
Right, you got
a couple outdoor
you
shots.
Got his house, his office, and the karate school.
Yeah.
And then some outdoor shots almost always at night. But they're all close, tight-in shots. There's no big wide shots anywhere.
Those scenes that are filmed at night, they almost feel like they're filmed guerrilla style.
Yeah, the movie's kind of claustrophobic.
Yeah,
in a lot of ways, just tight in.
I mean,
the biggest set is the main room in the karate school, which is not that big.
Yeah,
it's got enough room to teach half a dozen students or something, and
and I think they
it's just everything is like real small and closed in this movie.
I think there was also a scene in a grocery store too, but yeah, this movie though it takes place in the mid to late 90s. I don't think they ever really specify a year, but
the technology everyone's using,
the technology seems to be about that level.
And no one seems to have any cell phones.
Yeah, no one seems to have cell phones, but they do have, like, all of his work's being done on a computer at work. So, and it's like that
90s era tech.
Mid to late 90s, like, white CRT monitors, and
it's talking answering machine, so that was 90s tech too.
Oh, and the VHS recorder. VHS camera.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's but it's that sort of this weird period in time where there was a lot of martial arts schools cropping up around America, and like, you know, being run by, and karate seemed to be the big one.
Well, it's one of the few martial arts that can be taught to Westerners, like Chinese martial arts. It was like forbidden to teach to Westerners. So, but like, and also because of like where GIs were stationed. So you can learn karate because they're stationed in Okinawa, and you can learn Taekwondo for being stationed in South Korea. And they'd bring that back to America.
So it was this period of time though in the late 90s, like mid to late 90s, where a lot of these martial arts dojos were cropping up all over the place. I remember in elementary school getting like flyers for martial arts schools and stuff like pretty regularly. So it's, yeah, I don't know what, like, specifically why that time period all this happened, but this is definitely one of those dojos.
It's like a step up from Rex Kwon-Do.
From Napoleon Dynamite?
Yeah.
Yeah. It really is. Basic, and especially with the what's what I'm looking for?
Machismo?
Well, I mean, just like the kind of things that the guy is spouting, the rhetoric.
Yeah.
That the guy is, constantly telling the main character. He's, it's because like I said, the whole thing is a commentary on masculinity. So the guy even goes so far as telling him that, from now on you should only listen to heavy metal. And you should stop learning how to speak French. You should instead learn to speak German or Russian, because those are masculine languages. The French have are seen in history as surrendering easily, and it's this whole like,
get rid of your wiener dog and get like a German Shepherd.
Yeah, stuff like that. It's definitely a really interesting movie. But yeah, like I said, it's very. Like, there's some things that I noticed too with the movie, like how almost all the shots are fixed camera until that one scene, and we'll get into in the spoilers, and like it sort of helps add to the feeling of the scene. And there's very little music too, like almost no music in this movie.
Yeah, I think a lot of it, the way the movie's shot. And all those choices, it sort of internalizes everything that Jesse Eisenberg's character.
Yeah.
Because it's like it just focuses. Yeah, Casey. It just focuses on him internalizing everything, and then like his like journey through this.
Yeah.
These events, and just he's just sort of pulling the audience along, and you feel as like uncomfortable as him.
Right, and by having like no music in the movie and having everything be this like fixed camera, and I mean each room is always shot from the same, like the camera's always in the same position in any given set. Mm-hmm. Like in his living room, I think there's like 2 camera angles every time he's in that room, and in the kitchen there's the 1 camera angle every time he's in the room, and in the office, and it just makes it really emphasizes the like dullness of his life, and like the unimportance, like really makes you makes you feel his like what's the word I'm looking for? Like just dullness of his life.
He's living in like this like drudgery.
Yeah.
And
it's pretty depressing.
Yeah,
the first half
is.
Of this movie's like really depressing.
And so when there is a funny moment, it hits you really hard.
Yeah. And it's always like not even really a line that is itself a joke. It's a line that's so absurd, it's funny.
Yeah, the comedy is absurd. It's this absurdist dialogue. Like,
but yeah, so do go see this movie, because like we really can't talk about more than like the first third of this movie without spoiling it. Because it takes two turns.
Yeah.
Through this movie, and we'll get more into that in the spoiler part. So, but
I was just remembering, it's not really since he was talking about the Grand Master having the only person to ever have the rainbow belt, and you could see like in the photo he had like sewn pieces of martial arts belts.
Yeah.
End to end, so he'd have this like rainbow belt.
An award he gave to himself.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's I mean, that's, you got anything else to say that's not spoiler?
I don't know, it's, to me the movie feels as if the guy who directed Napoleon Dynamite were trying to mimic the style of David Fincher, and you would get him something approximating this movie.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty solid analogy. Yeah, like I said, Jesse Eisenberg was perfect casting in this movie. Anyway, spoiler part then?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, man, the first turn in this movie is when Jesse Eisenberg gets invited to the night class.
Yeah, that was
it's like the whole time you're like, this guy's kind of crazy, whatever, sort of out there, and then the night class happens, and you're like, all of these people are insane.
Yeah, the night class is where like his most elite students, where his most elite students go to the night class.
Yeah, and you have to be invited to the night class.
Right, and then it's like Fight Club though.
Yeah, and this guy shows up without being invited, and Sensei breaks his arm and stuff, and then like later in the movie, that guy hangs himself in the dojo.
Yeah, well, because his like Sensei has this cult of personality.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And everyone in the school just sort of worships him. And so when Sensei breaks the dude's arm and tells him never come back, not even to the day class, that like destroys him.
Yeah.
And so yeah, he hangs himself after that, and like. Like the reaction from Jesse Eisenberg is like, oh, you know,
yeah,
like, you know,
and then but the yeah, and like you realize just like that at that point the movie gets really dark very suddenly, and then the other turn is when you find out. I mean, you kind of got the idea that like this dude was even worse than that, though. But when he takes Jesse Eisenberg's character to a bar and has him beat up a random dude, you know, telling him... He
convinces him that this was one of the guys that mugged him.
Yeah, and he has him beat up this random dude in the parking garage of this, like, by this bar, and he films the whole thing, so now he has blackmail on him. And yeah, it's, again, it's a really dark scene.
At that point, though, I had started to guess, and I was right, that Sensei and his students were the ones who mugged him.
Yeah. Yeah, that turned out to be the case.
That turned out to be the case. And this is pretty great at the end, though. Sensei had one of those students kill Jesse Eisenberg's dog. He's this adorable little dachshund.
Dachshunds are adorable.
Yep.
As a rule.
Right. And so he takes the dog to the vet because he comes home and finds the dog lying on the floor, and he takes the dog to the vet, and the vet tells him, Well, he looks like he was punched to death, but the bruise pattern is of a foot. And there's this thing in the school, like, punch with your feet and kick with your hands. It's just I guess because the kicks are supposed to be thrust kicks.
It's this, like, supposed to be deep-sounding mantra that's just utter bullshit.
Right. But anyway, so at that point he realizes he thinks it's Sensei, but it's one of the students. But
at the behest of Sensei.
At the behest of Sensei. But the vet reveals that the dog had bitten whoever had attacked him.
Right.
So at the end, because Sensei's, I don't know what his ultimate goal was, to turn him into another one of him or something, but he gives Jesse Eisenberg a German Shepherd. So at the end, he comes in with his German Shepherd, and he's like, finds one student with a bandage on his arm. He's like, what happened to your wrist there? Oh, I sprained my wrist playing guitar. I didn't know you played guitar. Are you any good? He's like, oh yeah, I know several songs. What do you like to play? Soft rock. Impossible. It's impossible for you to sprain your wrist playing soft rock.
Yeah.
And so he has him take the bandage off, and he sees the bite mark, so he has the German Shepherd rip the dude's throat out.
Yeah. And then, like, at the very beginning of the movie, Jesse Eisenberg's Casey goes to buy a handgun. And that was a really weird scene, too.
Well, because he's someone who's never even touched,
like,
seen a gun in real life.
But, I mean, even the way the guy running the gun store, like, that was also just... all around was just everything was a very awkward exchange in this movie. All the dialogue.
Yeah, like, every person in the entire movie is socially awkward.
In some way.
Yeah.
And they're...
Every person.
And so... The, I mean, it's like the director was like standing back and go, no, more robotic. More robotic, I said. And anyway, he's, at the beginning of the movie, he, goes to buy a gun, and the guy tells him, there's a 3-day waiting period. And then, but in the meantime, he discovers karate. Now he's all about karate. And so when the gun store owner calls him to tell him that he can come pick up his gun, he says he's not interested anymore. And he says, well, the background check's good for 60 days. So if you change your mind, come back, you can come back and pick it up. And I don't know, maybe 2/3 of the way through the movie, I leaned over to him and I was like, he's going to shoot Sensei.
Oh, yeah.
With that gun.
Yeah, I was already thinking that. Like, as soon as the guy's like, you have 60 days, I'm like, he's going to shoot Sensei.
Yeah.
He's going to go get that gun and shoot him.
But, yeah, and, like, right at the end, like, he challenges Sensei to
unarmed combat
to the death. And while Sensei's, like, getting ready's, warming up or whatever, he just draws the gun and shoots him in the forehead.
There was this thing, Sensei had said earlier in the movie that the Grand Master, who's now dead, who'd been shot in the face, he calls it during a hiking accident, but a hunter accidentally shot him in the face.
With a shotgun. Right, that's what it was.
Right. He was probably murdered by Sensei, I'm guessing.
Or it was in self-defense when the Grandmaster was doing this. Because the Grandmaster went around and punched.
Right, so this is what I was getting to. He had a technique where he could punch his finger through your forehead, and he had killed all the other Grandmasters in the state.
Yeah.
In the state. Yeah, and so at the end, we're guessing he just shot the guys because Jesse Eisenberg sticks his finger in the bullet wound, and he tells the rest of the school that he had learned the technique, and he killed Sensei by punching him through the forehead with his finger.
Yeah.
You notice, though, after he shoots the guy, almost every shot of him is looking up at him now.
Yeah.
Like he's gotten big.
So going back to like the things I noticed with the still camera, there was the one scene that was a handheld cam, and it was pretty shaky, was when he was beating the shit out of that dude in the parking garage. When he beats that guy up. Like, that's all handheld cam, and I think to really emphasize the craziness that's going on in that scene.
No, wasn't it when he was beating up the cop that shot the girl?
Oh, maybe that. Yeah, that might have been what it was.
Because he just hit the guy in the parking garage in the stomach once, and he fell on the ground and cracked his head open.
Right.
And he didn't want. It was when after they gone to mug the guy. They didn't know it was an undercover cop, but the cop shot the girl, and then he beat up the cop.
That's right. So yeah, that But yeah, it was a scene where he was really losing control and just beating the shit out of him. But yeah, this movie got real dark. And like everyone is a messed up individual when everyone's just accepts that he killed the sensei and no one cares. Like everyone's just fine with it.
But they were also following Sensei out at night, beating people up, videotaping it.
Yeah.
So Sensei they were beating people up, mugging them, beating them up, videotaping it, and selling those videos.
Yeah.
On the black market. Yeah. And then they were all willing to just do whatever Sensei said, and so yeah, they're all very messed up individuals, everyone involved in this movie.
Yep. But anyway, I think that's all I have to say about it.
Yeah, while the movie wasn't what I expected, I liked it a lot.
Yeah. So, our next movie review is gonna be...
The Lion King.
The Lion King. And the next one after that's gonna be Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Followed by Fast and Furious Presents Hobbs and Shaw. And then kinda not a whole lot to see for a bit after that. Kinda ends
The Kitchen might be interesting.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, we got Blinded by the Light.
Yeah, you got Blinded by the Light. That's at the end of August. Or toward third week in August, or whatever. And Ready or Not looks
I'm kind of interested in
interesting.
it. I've seen the trailers a couple times now, and it looks interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we'll probably end up going to see just because there's nothing else to see. Because we're definitely not seeing Angel Has Fallen.
Yeah.
Because that movie looks terrible.
I can't suspend my disbelief enough.
Yeah.
To see that. You'd think that guy would be above reproach by now. Like, how could you frame him for the murder of the president by this point?
I'm excited for the Goldfinch to release, just so I can stop seeing the trailers.
That movie I can't even tell what's going on in that movie. It just looks so weird.
It's so weird, and the trailer's so long. But then we got Rambo Last Blood. And are we seeing Ad Astra?
Probably.
Yeah, maybe 21 Bridges. Like, there's a lot of movies that, like, for the next couple months that are like, yeah, I guess we'll see that. Very few that's like, well, we have to see that.
Yeah.
We have to see Jojo Rabbit.
Yeah.
But that's not till October, so yeah, it's definitely gonna start winding down here in the next couple months until we get into the holiday movie season, which we got Star Wars. So
Word.
Real excited for that. But yeah, that's what we got coming up. So if any of that sounds of interest to you, go ahead and I don't think liking and subscribing videos really does shit on YouTube anymore, so, do whatever.
Just be sure you do it.
Subscribe so you could find our channel easily later, I guess. And then what was our last video we did? Our last review?
Oh man, it all just kind of runs together now.
Was it Spider-Man? It wasn't Spider-Man.
No.
It was a couple weeks ago. Oh yeah, that was before 4th of July. What was the last movie we reviewed? We do a lot of movie reviews. Stuber! That's right. Yeah, that's why it's been a couple weeks. It's because we saw that early, and then as a result, there was nothing to see the week Stuber released.
Yeah.
So, check out our other reviews, and wait with anticipation for our upcoming Lion King review.
Because we know that you're waiting for our review before you go see Lion King.
Right.
We're the final arbiter of whether you see Lion King or not.
Exactly. But yeah, so until next time, thanks for listening.
Bye.
Toodles.